Starting the recording now, we're going to be talking about the shoulder girdle itself. The first slide is just what composes the shoulder girdle? There's two bones that make up a shoulder girdle. A girdle is something that embraces. What are they? Clavicle and the scapula embraces the thorax. So that's where the girdle is used to connect the upper extremity to the thorax. It's the shoulder girdle, right? All right. And she had her 1 through 9s in there. The one thing I noticed on here, look on position of part. What do we have again? Epicondyle, supinate hand, epicondyles to the IR. There's a neutral and there's an internal. Epicondyles are perpendicular, epicondyles are parallel. You're going to get sick of hearing this. But what's good about it, you already know this material. Okay, now we're going to be talking about the epicondyles in relation to the movement of the hand, right? But as we do that, we're actually focusing on the shoulder joint. The shoulder itself, we've moved away from the humerus, all right? And in your book, there's this great, let me see what page that's on. I'll get back over to it. The page with the little man with his hand in 3 positions. What page is that on? 248? 228. All right, 228 it is. This is the most important page on the shoulder joint. You have to know it. You have to put the relationship of the epicondyles. Now keep in mind, when you're doing a shoulder, will you see the epicondyles? No. So now we're going to have to take that with the placement of the hand and start adding what's going to be in the picture is going to be your greater and lesser tubercles of the shoulder. But in positioning, we're still going to be using the epicondyles, whether or not they're parallel or perpendicular. But they're not going to be in your image. So you're going to have to start connecting what moves with the AP elbow, what happens when you rotate the hand in or external, internal, or neutral, what happens in the shoulder in relation to the epicondyles being parallel or perpendicular. It's all on this page right here on page 228. Okay? All right. And again, I'm going to put this on your responsibility. You have to know this, guys. Even when it talks about greater overlap of the glenoid cavity. Do you know what the glenoid cavity is? Say it. It's on the lateral aspect of the scapula. It's where the humeral head connects. Yeah. All right. So when you're looking at these 3 images, I think I got these on there somewhere. Let me see. I don't know if I did or not. Okay, well, look on your book. Look in your page 228. They talk about greater humeral glenoid cavity overlap. The one that has the most is the one at the bottom, internal, and it says what? It says humerus, the greater tubercle, lesser tubercle is in profile. You see that triangular part of the humeral head coming in and how it overlaps the glenoid cavity? That's got the greatest humeral overlap of the glenoid cavity. The other 2s barely touch it. I have some images coming up. All right, let's get into it. All right, this is external rotation. Epicondyles are going to be parallel. All right, and it says the central ray is going to be 1 inch inferior to the coracoid process. Everybody know where the coracoid is? It's going to, if you feel on your shoulder, right on the very aspect here is on the outside, lateral aspect of the humeral head is the greater trochanter, tubercle, greater tubercle. On the anterior is your lesser tubercle. If you push hard, you can feel there's a little notch in the middle. That's the intertubercular groove. Right inside of that, if you push hard, that is your coracoid. It hurts. If you push hard on it, it hurts. There's a little indentation. not on the humeral head, but in front of it, right underneath your clavicle and medial to it from the humeral head, right there. If you push hard, that's your coracoid. That's the central ray for your shoulder. It says an inch or inch and a half, 1 inch inferior to the coracoid. That's where your central ray is going to hit. Now, let me show you this picture. Problem with this one here is our clinical sites require us to include the entire shoulder girdle, which means that we have to have the clavicle. So if we go with what the book says, 1 inch inferior to the coracoid, we end up cutting the sternal side of the clavicle off, and it's a fail. Everybody heard that? So your test question, lecture test, it is 1 inch inferior to the coracoid. In your lab, I need you to tell me that it's 1 inch inferior to the coracoid, but that you're going to move the patient over a little so that your collimation gets this part of the sternal part of the clavicle to get a comp. So it's kind of like the didactic world versus the clinical world. Okay? So lecture test, central ray for a shoulder is definitely what? 1 inch inferior to the coracoid. In lab, if you draw this, or if you're doing a comp in the departments, you say, okay, 1 inch, but I need to make sure you've got what? All of the clavicle. If you cut the clavicle off, it's a fail. So students just off center it. They'll find the coracoid, they're 1 inch below it, then they just bring the central ray in medially a little bit more so that you're ensuring that you've got light over here to get all of the clavicle. Okay? Any questions on that? This is an external evaluation. This is, what is the arrow pointing to? The greater trochanter is in profile. Okay, the greater trochanter is in, and I told you the greater, I keep saying trochanter, greater tubercle is on the lateral aspect. I don't know if they can see me. So it's right here. So if I turn my arm out, that greater tubercle comes out with it. So it was here. Turning it out, it's going to roll it more forward out. That's the greater tubercle. That's external rotation. Look at this. How are the tubercles? I mean, the epicondyles parallel. All right. External rotation, greater tubercle, laterally in profile. The humeral scapular joints got slight overlap. Can y'all see? I don't know if you see my mouse half the time. Right, okay, I think I'm on it now, but now it's not on my... Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
What am I pointing at right now?
Oh, it disappeared. Hold up.
Yeah, see, I don't know why it's not showing on this big screen.
There it is. Oh, we found it.
Okay, right. This is the greater. Everybody see that? But I'm looking at the humeral. This is the glenoid cavity here. And you see you have very, very little overlap. I just changed your screen, didn't I? Right. This is the glenoid cavity. And you have very little overlap of the humeral head over the glenoid cavity. That's external rotation. This is your greater trochanter. Why do I keep saying trochanter? This isn't a femur. Tubercle. Tuberosity. Right there. This is a lesser here. And there's your groove. It's not the same on my computer. That is so weird. All right. I think we just looked at that one. This is your external rotation. Internal rotation. Notice that the epicondyles are going to be what? Perpendicular. It's 1 inch inferior. Again, for your test question, it is 1 inch inferior to the coracoid. But for clinical, you will have to move them over a little bit medially to include the what? Sternal end of the clavicle. Everybody got that? You have to have it on there. All right, now look, this is your lesser. Let's see if I can get over here. All right, look how much overlap we have of that triangular part of it right there. That is your lesser tubercle overlapping the glenoid cavity. Okay, and this has got internal rotation. Says lesser tubercle profile medially, which is definitely pointing medially over the glenoid cavity. Scapulohumeral joint center, proximal humerus, upper scapula, and the clavicle is visualized. Internal rotation, again, here's another, just another picture showing you. The arrowhead is your lesser, and this is your greater. The greater is actually rolled over onto the head because this has got internal rotation. Internal rotation is going to give you the lesser tubercle in profile. Lesser tubercle in profile, external, internal rotation. And this is showing you the two positions of the hand. This is going to be what? Which one's this? Look at the epicondyles. So this is external. Epicondyles are what? Parallel. What are these? You can't see my mouse, can you?
We lost the mouse.
What is?
Trick question.
Okay. The black dot here, epicondyles are what? Perpendicular, and our hand placement makes it internal rotation. So this is going to demonstrate what tubercles. This is going to be the lesser. This is going to be what? The greater. All right, here's internal versus external versus internal. Back it up. All right, notice the humeral overlap on the first image over the glenoid cavity. Greater amount of humeral overlap, right? The lesser tubercles, I got that triangular part right there. Everyone see that? That's going to tell you it's what? Internal. This over on the other side is going to be what? External. Can you see the difference? And then in your mind, you need to be thinking about what are the epicondyles doing? Because we can't see them now, right? Everybody okay? All right. Some more pictures of them here. There is a neutral. This is a neutral here. There's protocol at most facilities don't do neutrals because they really don't show anything. The lesser and the greater disappear over the humeral head. So it's going to be site specific. You'll need to ask the protocol if they want to do internal, external, which is the norm. But if they want to do a neutral, it's just where the arm is hanging down naturally by its side, usually in a 45 degree. And like I said, it really doesn't show. This is, look, really doesn't show anything. Because the humeral and lesser tubercle really have basically disappeared. And you have very, very, very little overlap here. It says this one right here. I don't want to get into scapula Y. All right. I want to stop here. That was a lot. It's 11:30. Is that right? What time have I got? I want to stop here. And I'm going to stop the recording. We're not going to stop lecture, but I'm going to stop this.